All right, so we're finishing up 3.4. Now 3.3 due today was adding and subtracting to solve our equations. This one was multiplying and dividing to solve our equations. And so we're going to look at example H. What is this fraction doing to the C? It's squeezed next together like that. I know it. That's what I said. It's multiplying. What's the inverse of multiplication? Division. So what's confusing at people about this problem is that on one side, I'm putting divide by negative 2/5. But on the other side, I'm not writing that. On the other side, I'm putting times by negative 5/2. Now, why am I doing that? Because to divide fractions, we have to use keep, change, flip. So I'm already flipping it. This is the fraction I'm going to have to flip. So I just put the 8 down right there. Actually, what is 8 as a fraction? 8 over 1, so I'm going to put 8 over 1 right there. And so by dividing by negative 2/5 on both sides, really, I'm doing it to both sides. I'm just going ahead and flipping it already to make it negative 5/2. That's what was confusing people. We have to use keep, change, flip for our fractions. Some people were flipping the 8 over 1 to make it 1 over 8. You're flipping the wrong one. Flip the fraction that you're dividing by. Keep, change, flip the second one. So the 5 over 2. And then we can cancel the 8 and the 2. One negative makes your whole answer negative. So there's the negative. And what's 4 times 5? And what's 1 times 1? And how do I write 20 over 1? Just 20. So my answer is negative 20. C equals negative 20. Yeah. Make sure, as I mentioned earlier, that on your guys' work papers that you write down the equation. Right? Write down the equation back there. Show your work on both sides. Write your answer. Sometimes we have some side work like this one. Fractions, we're going to have some side work. Decimals, we're going to have some side work. Okay, we left off right here. I wanted to put this chart on here because we've seen some problems even in our 3.3 homework that we've had to write the equation down and then solve it. And so this might be a helpful chart for you guys to look at. Anytime you see words like added to, plus, sum of, more than, increased by, total of, or just the word and, it means that you're going to add. If I say and, you're pairing something together, you're adding it, right? So I'm going to bring you and you. So I guess we're both going, right? I'm adding to my list. Subtraction, you see words like subtracted from, minus, difference of, less than, decreased by, fewer than, or take away. That's telling you you're going to subtract. Multiplied by, times, product of, twice, or the word of, as we just saw in the bonus that we did for the test. If I say the word of, that means times. Half of you need to come with me. So times you by half or divide by 2. And then division, pretty simple, divided by or quotient. And that's what we see here for this example. A number divided by negative 9 is negative 16. So when it, and you don't have to, but whenever it says a number and it doesn't specify what letter I'm supposed to use, I just use N for number, but you're welcome to use X or M, whatever you want to. Okay. So a number divided by negative 9. What's is mean? Equal to, is equal to negative 16. Okay. Is always means equals. Now you could write it like that and you could solve it like that. Big ideas won't write it like that. In fact, you didn't see any that looked like that in your homework, I don't think. You started it. Instead, they would have made it look like this. You've seen ones like that, right? N over or N divided by negative 9 like that. That's how they'll write it. And it means the same thing. What's the opposite of dividing by negative 9? Multiplying by, nope. Not multiplying by 9, multiplying by negative 9. What makes this different from what we did with the 3.3 homework is that I'm not putting the opposite number underneath. That's how you cancel out a constant. This is called a coefficient. If it's being squeezed next to multiplying or dividing, it's called a coefficient. The way that I get rid of a coefficient is by putting the same number down, so negative 9, but instead of dividing, I'm going to multiply by negative 9. What would happen if you just multiplied by 9 is the 9 would cancel out with the 9, but there'd still be a negative. So you got to write -9 and then cancel it out with the -9. That's going to give you n. And then now I'm doing -16 times -9, which means I'm probably going to have to go off to the side for that. What is a negative times a negative? Positive. So I know it's positive. Now, what I would do, if I'm trying to do this in my head, is I would do 9 times 10. What's 9 times 10? 90. And then 9 times 6. What's 9 times 6? 54. And then combine that 54 and 90. Can you do that in your head? That might be asking too much. What is 54 and 90? 144. 54 and 90 is 144. So it's positive 144. In that case, then it might be just as much time, if not maybe even less time, just to go off to the side and write 16 times 9 like this. Get your 54. 9 times 1 is 9, plus 5 is 14. You do that too. This last question says the record low temperature in Arizona is 1.6 times the record low temperature in Rhode Island. What is the record low temperature in Rhode Island? -40 is the record low temperature in Arizona. That's helpful to know. I mean, I have to know that in order to solve the problem, but what I'm actually trying to find is the record low temperature in Rhode Island. So this is, let me rephrase this for us. When it said the record low temperature in Arizona is 1.6 times, I'm just going to write the AZ Arizona temperature is 1.6 times the Rhode Island RI temp. Let's turn that into an equation, but first let's decide what letter we want to use for our variable. If we're trying to find the Rhode Island temperature, what letter do you guys want to use for that? T? T? What's T stand for? The temperature. Which temperature? The Rhode Island. We already know the Arizona temperature. The Rhode Island, I'll just put RI again, temperature. So let's turn that word sentence into an equation sentence. When it says the Arizona temperature, Branson, you already told us what that was. What is it? -40 degrees. That is the record low temperature in Arizona. So I'm going to replace that with -40. So when it says the AZ temp, I know the record low in Arizona is -40. Arizona is not, I don't think it's known for getting super cold. At least I don't think about it getting really cold, but apparently it does sometimes. What do we use for the word is? Equals 1.6 times the Rhode Island temperature. We're using T for the Rhode Island temperature. So 1.6 times, or I could just squeeze them together like that, times T, 1.6 T. That's my equation. And then I solve. Of course, the opposite of multiplying by 1.6 is dividing by 1.6. Yeah, don't do two opposites, only do one opposite. As soon as you said dividing by, you've already done the opposite. So we're just going to divide by 1.6. If you throw a negative in there, now that negative has nothing to cancel out with, you just made it -T. We don't want to do that. So just 1.6. And we're going to divide by 1.6. That's going to cancel out, just gives me T equals. And then what's a negative divided by a positive? Negative. And I'm going to have to do some long division here. Top dog gets the house. 40 divided by 1.6. Can the outside number be a decimal? No. So slide it over once, make it 16. Slide this one over once to make it 400. Now I'm doing 400 divided by 16. Now 16 does go into 40. How many times? 3 is 48. 2 is what? 32. Okay. So I'm going to subtract 40 minus 32, and that's going to give me what? 8. Drop down that 0 I just put. 16 into 80. Any guesses? 5. 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 3. Ah, nice. Good guess. So I don't even need the decimal point anymore because there's nothing after the decimal point. My answer is negative. Don't forget it was negative. -25. And we're talking about a temperature, so we should put degrees. I'm thinking it's Fahrenheit. Yeah, degrees Fahrenheit. Move my equal sign over just a little bit. That makes sense. When it says the Arizona temperature, low temperature is 1.6 times bigger, actually means it's smaller. Yeah, it's actually lower. The Arizona temperature gets down lower than the Rhode Island temperature. And I would think of Rhode Island being colder than Arizona because it's on, it's on the East Coast and Rhode Island's pretty north up and not all the time. Yeah, there are certain places that can get cold. Didn't they shut down what? For snowing? Oh, I'm sure of it. Yeah, because what do they probably don't have the infrastructure to get all that stuff. Like Texas, when it snowed in Texas last year and they had to shut, they lost power, they didn't have any way of putting it because, I mean, who would have thought Texas was going to get down with snow? So.
My great grandparents, they live 3 miles from Mexico.
Yeah. All right. I need you guys to get logged into Kahoot. Kahoot.it is where you're going to go. Kahoot.it. Let's see if I can get this shared. Okay, the pin that you're going to put in is loading. 5:29, 9:55. And please hurry up and pick a name because we only have 15 minutes left and I want to go over this with you guys. So the worksheet that I just gave you guys, you're going to like it for 2 reasons. Remember the 3 things I told you need every single time? Write down the equation, show your work, and write your answer. The equation's already written down for you. So all you have to do is show your work and write your answer. Also, no fractions, no decimals, all integers. Just like the problems you're going to see on this Kahoot, by the way. So the Kahoot does not have the same exact 18 questions, but they're going to look just like this, okay? And so what I'm going to ask you to do, well, I'm not going to ask you. Most of you can do it in your head. If you want to show work and you want to try to do it real quick on paper, just flip your worksheet over and you can do some scratch work on the back of your worksheet. You don't have to do that. Some of them, like I said, you probably do it in your head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I got 10 people on. Hurry up, Bryce. Let's go. This worksheet, by the way, is due, what is today? Thursday. It's due Monday, but it's to help you study for your quiz tomorrow. Your quiz tomorrow will have a fraction and will have a decimal question on it because you've done them in the homework. But a lot of them will be integers, just like this. Also on your quiz, you'll have a couple of questions where you have to simplify an expression. What do we do when we have a number on the outside of the parentheses? Multiply it to the numbers inside, right? What do we do when we have like terms? We combine them, we add them. What if one's negative and one's positive? Do we add them really? We actually subtract them because we're going to war. Technically adding them, but in reality, we're subtracting them because of the war. Yeah, so you will have a couple of problems like that on the quiz from 3.1. So if you did your 3.1 homework, you've seen the 2 homework questions that you're going to see on there, and the rest will be equations. All right, we got 11 people now. We're ready to go. Here's your first question. We're just going to, whoever makes the podium when the game ends, which is in 12 minutes, you'll get candy. Got to make the podium, got to be top 3. All right, the first one here says solve this 1-step equation, and it's r divided by 2 equals 9. So think about what the opposite of dividing by 2 is, and then do that to both sides. Is it r equals 18, r equals negative 18, r equals 7, or r equals 11? Thomas, can you see back there? You can move if you can't see. Anybody who can't see can move. So it is r equals 18 because the opposite of dividing by 2 is multiplying by 2, not negative 2, just multiplying by 2. Because as soon as I say multiplying, I've already done the inverse. 9 times 2 is 18, so r equals 18. Notice it doesn't just say 18, it says r equals 18 like it's supposed to. All right, next question. This one is y plus 3 equals 9. So this one, you're going to put the opposite of a positive 3 on both sides and do that. Ashton, you're playing, right? Okay.
What?
This one's going to give you y equals 6. That's yes, because the opposite of 3 is negative 3, not the opposite of 9. So it's whatever side, whatever constant is on the same side as your variable term, that's the one you want to get rid of. So the opposite of a positive 3 is a negative 3. Now, you might be thinking, isn't that just subtracting 3? Yes. But the reason I want you to think of it as a negative 3 is because when we use our integer operations, isn't it easier to think joining forces are going to war? When I put a negative 3 on this side or minus 3, I know that I'm going to war. So I'm going to get positive 6. 9 minus 3 is 6. Okay, it's a long road ahead. We got 18 more questions. (3g equals 15). What's the 3 doing to the g, and do the opposite of that to both sides? The 3 is being multiplied to the g, so we're going to divide by 3, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. Okay. So just to clarify, since the 3 is multiplying to the g, we have to use inverse operations and divide. I saw some people put 45 as their answer. A multiplication equation has to be solved using division, and vice versa. Division equations have to be solved using multiplication. So think about, what if I would have asked you this? What if I would have said 3 times what gives me 3 times what gives me 15?
5.
You would have said 5. See how simple it is just to think about it like that sometimes? 3 times what would give me 15? It's 5. All right, next question. Less talking for me. 20 seconds. A plus 4 equals negative 1. So the opposite of plus 4 is a minus 4. And so if I think about negative 4, I'm going to combine the negative 4 that I'm going to write here with the negative 4 there. And a negative 1 and a negative 4 join forces to make negative 5. Negative 5. Knowing hamster really knows their stuff. All right. 22 equals negative 11k. I got to get rid of the negative 11, but not by putting a plus 11. That's not what I want to do. That negative 11 is being multiplied to the k. You will have to divide. So if you can tell me what 22 divided by negative 11 is, which is negative 2, you'll get the right answer. Whoa, no. I'm not adding or subtracting because this negative 11 is being multiplied to the k. So I'm going to divide 22 divided by 11 is 2, and there's one negative, so make it a negative 2.
I still
This game is such a waste.
even though I lost first place, I'm still. No, oh wait, I'm still in first place. Let's go.
H divided by 5 equals 1. Don't miss this one. What divided by 5 is 1? Come on.
2.
Okay, put 2 then.
5.
It is 5.
Okay.
So you could ask yourself, what divided by 5 is 1? Or you could literally just say the opposite of dividing is multiplying, and 1 times 5 is 5. Here's your question. 4m, or 4 times m, equals negative 32. So the opposite of multiplying by 4 is dividing by 4. If you can tell me what negative 32 divided by 4 is, then you'll get the right answer. Negative 32 divided by 4 is negative 8. Divide by 4, divide by 4, negative 8.
What's a bison? Isn't that like a reindeer?
Like a buffalo.
Oh.
P minus 7 equals negative 6. Think to yourself, what's the opposite of negative 7? And do that to both sides. By the way, the opposite of a -7 is a +7, so you're throwing a +7 on both sides, and -6 plus a 7. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna do +7 and +7, and -6 and +7 have different signs, so I subtract them and go to war, and the +7 is gonna win by 1. So +1 should be my answer. P equals +1. That one we need some work on. Y divided by -2 equals -34. The opposite of dividing by -2 is multiplying by -2. So if you can tell me what -34 times -2 is, two negatives make a positive. So times by -2, times by -2 on this side, two negatives make a positive 68 in this case.
Wait. Oh my gosh.
Z minus 5 is -8. This is why instead of just thinking, oh, I need to add 5 to both sides, I like you to think of it instead of a +5, because when you combine a +5 and a -8, you don't get 13.
Wait, is it?
You don't get 13.
No.
A -8 and a +5 makes a -3. When you add 5 and you combine a -8 and a +5, they have different signs. You go to war. And the negatives in this case will win by 3. The negatives win by 3. Now, if you find this being difficult to do in your head, that's why we do it on paper normally, right? And that's why you have a worksheet that you can do this on paper.
Oh, yeah.
Plus, your worksheet's not timed. Well, there is a deadline, but it's not timed. I'm not gonna, now, your quiz is not timed either, right? So take your time on stuff tomorrow. I'm not gonna give you 20 seconds, say, no, you gotta move on. You get to go back and you can double check and triple check as much as you want.
Wait, what do we get if we like get on the phone?
Candy,
What kind of candy?
you're looking at it. T plus 3 equals -9. What do you have?
I can't have suckers.
I'll give you something you could have. Opposite of a +3 is a -3 minus 3. So if I think of it as a -3, I should be joining forces with my -9.
Oh, I guess.
-3, put a -3 right there, put a -3 right here. -9 and -3 makes -12 because you got to join forces.
We're chilling now.
-5m equals -75. Branson, this is not saying that you're subtracting or adding 5. This is multiplication. So you got to think, what's the opposite of multiplying by -5? It's dividing. No, it's dividing by -5. If you can tell me what -75 divided by -5 is, it is +15. So we're going to divide by -5 and divide by two negatives make a positive. 75 divided by 5 is 15.
What?
Ooh, Meerkat jumps up. K minus 2 equals 4. Think to yourself, what minus 2 would give me 4? It is 9, yeah. You should put 9 down. Oh my goodness, guys. 6 minus 2 is 4. We're still confused on this. Now, the opposite of a -2 is a +2. So I'm just going to add 2 to both sides. That's where I get 6. Use inverse operations. This should be K equals 6.
I find that funny.
X minus 4. Don't get this one wrong. What minus 4 gives you 1? Thank you. Thank you. Now, really, in reality, what you're doing is you're adding 4 to both sides. That's where the 5 comes from. V divided by -7 equals 4. The opposite of dividing is multiplying, but don't do two opposites. You shouldn't be multiplying by 7. You should be multiplying by the same exact -7, and that gives you -28. Times by -7, times by -7 to get -28. Because you've got to multiply. You're not adding or subtracting, you're multiplying in this case. 20 equals k minus 10. It's the minus 10 I want to get rid of. So k is by itself. The opposite of negative 10 is a positive 10. So you're really just combining 20 and positive 10 together. So it's 30.
What?
Now plug your answer in. Does 10 minus 10 equal 20? 30 minus 10 equals 20, right? So k's got to be 30. Last one. And then we'll do the podium. We'll have to skip to the podium. Last one. N plus 12 equals negative 24. Get rid of the plus 12 by putting negative 12 on both sides.
Wait, so it'll be positive?
It'll be, well, you're going to put a negative 12 to cancel out the positive 12. If you put a negative 12 here and a negative 12 there, you got to join forces. Negative 24 and negative 12. Negative 12, negative 12, negative 24, negative 12 makes negative 36 when you join forces. And that means Kind Wildcat, come on up and grab your sucker. Knowing Hamster, come up and grab your sucker. And in first place, getting 15 out of 17 correct, Magic Finch, come on up and grab your sucker.
Can we play again tomorrow?
Yes, but tomorrow is going to be the quiz. So we play for real and there's no music.
After, how about after the quiz?
After the quiz,
Yes.
if there's time.
Okay.
I picked